And welcome back, folks, to WrestleRant, where I give my in-depth analysis of all the pay-per-views that I watch on the WWE Network. For the entire month of June, I will be reviewing every One Night Stand pay-per-view presented by the WWE from 05 to 06 to 07 to 08. Every Tuesday in the month of June will be devoted and dedicated to the One Night Stand pay-per-view in WWE. Today, it's One Night Stand 2005, the inaugural event presented from the Hammerstein Ballroom with Joey Styles and Mick Foley, aka Cactus Jack, on commentary. I believe this was the first ECW revival of any kind after the company's demise in 2001 when it was bought out by the WWE / the WWF at the time. So it really was after ECW really got popular after it went bankrupt and went out of business in 2001. People continued to chant at events and stuff like that. It was still very popular. Merch was still selling on the WWE website. Stuff like that, and they decided to give the fans what they wanted to see, a one-night stand for ECW, and that's exactly what the show was. Highly regarded as one of the best pay-per-views in WWE history, and after watching it back this past week on the WWE Network, I think I can thoroughly agree with that sentiment as well. So kicking off the show, we had Lance Storm taking on Chris Jericho in a match of the former friends. These two are friends in real life, so they had a very good matchup to kick off the show. Jericho, as the Lionheart, was formerly in the ECW when it first started up. Lance Storm, a part of the Impact players who made their way into this matchup, made their presence felt when they hit Jericho over the head with a Singapore cane and granted Lance Storm the victory. So overall, a very nice matchup to kick off the show. Lance Storm, your victor here, and a revival of the Impact players alongside Jason and Just Incredible. So that was a cool little reunion for that faction, and Jericho and Storm were able to have their one final match together. From what I heard, this is Lance Storm's final match before retiring. Maybe I read that incorrectly because I heard he still does independence to this day, so I'm not exactly sure. But even still, for his final WWE match, maybe that's what it was. It was a great final match from Storm and a great showing from both Jericho and Storm as well. So up next, we had a tribute to any past wrestlers who had passed away from ECW. That was very nice. I think it was presented by Pitbull number 1 or number 2. I can't remember exactly who it was. But it was a very nice, classy tribute that paid tribute to all the wrestlers who are now deceased or were deceased at the time of this show, including Chris Candido, who had just passed away, I think only a few months prior to that. His name was chanted during the Lance Storm and Chris Jericho matchup because Lance Storm and Chris Candido used to be tag team partners back in ECW days. So that being said, that was a very classy tribute. I wish WWE would do more of this stuff. I know this was an ECW thing, so it wasn't really WWE say, and I know they produced and all that kind of stuff. But I remember being a bit disappointed. I know a lot of people were like back when the Raw 1000th episode in July of 2012, at the start of the show, they aired a long vignette, dating back to the last 20 years of Monday Night Raw. But they didn't really, at any point in the show, pay tribute to anyone who had deceased, who had been a part of the show on a regular basis, like someone like an Eddie Guerrero or something like that. The Macho Man Randy Savages and, people like of that nature. They didn't really pay tribute to anyone who had deceased, so WWE doesn't normally do that kind of stuff. I'm glad the ECW did. But, so that was that. That was a nice little video package. Up next, we had a three-way dance, and it's different from a triple threat match in WWE because in a three-way dance, it's an elimination-style contest. It pitted Tajiri versus Little Guido versus Super Crazy, triple threat contest, three-way contest. Great matchup. It was kind of like a hardcore cruiserweight contest with Super Crazy, Tajiri, and Little Guido, aka Nunzio from the WWE. All kind of had that stigma about them being cruiserweights, but this is a hardcore style cruiserweight contest. Tajiri wasn't alone. Super Crazy was alone, but Tajiri wasn't alone. In his corner, he had the Sinister Minister, one individual who has never been under contract with the WWE, surprisingly enough. I think not one of the greatest wrestlers, because he wasn't a wrestler, of course, but I think he is one of the greatest wrestling personalities to have never been in the WWE, which is highly interesting. He's also in TNA as I think the father of Abyss at one point, too. But he was accompanying Tajiri for this matchup, as was Mikey Whipwreck. I've heard a lot about Mikey Whipwreck, and I will say this, though. This is also the first, I know this is produced by WWE, but this is my first ECW pay-per-view as a fan. I should have said that at the start of this video. But, so I read the book, Rise and Fall of ECW, a number of years ago. I thought it was a great book, so it really got me interested. And now that I'm home for the summer, I can watch some more ECW and WCW pay-per-views. More on that in the next couple of months. But that being said, this is my first look at Mikey Whipwreck. Not at all like I imagined him to be. I knew that he was an underdog in ECW, and he had a hard time winning matches, and when he finally did win a match, the crowd went crazy and stuff like that. I know at one point he turned heel, and maybe it was with the minister, the sinister minister and stuff like that. But he did not look anything what I expected him to be. But even still, he was in the corner of Tajiri, and in the corner of Little Guido was the FBI, who were in the WWE at one point many years ago. But all the personalities in this contest, everyone at ringside, everyone in the match itself, made this a very, very fun contest. By far the highlight of the entire match. It was super crazy, ascending up to the balcony and doing a fucking moonsault off the balcony and onto the people below him, taking out the entire FBI. That was awesome. I think Little Guido was up on the top rope. Tajiri and one of the other FBI members, I think it might have been Big Guido, had Tajiri up on his shoulders. Tajiri spat the green mist in the face of Little Nunzio. Tajiri ended up pinning Nunzio. He was eliminated. It came down to Super Crazy and Nunzio, or Super Crazy and Tajiri. Put on a fun little matchup before Super Crazy picked up the victory. I thought this matchup could go a little longer between Super Crazy and Tajiri, but that aside, though, very, very fun contest. Your victor, Super Crazy. So up next, we had Rey Mysterio and Psychosis, and a little bit of luchador action. Rey Mysterio was a part of ECW a number of years ago as well. Psychosis, he came down with a mask in his entrance, but he took it off before the matchup began. Now, I don't know much about Psychosis aside from the fact that he's in SmackDown vs. Raw 07. That's the only real reason that I'm familiar with him. But did he unmask in ECW? Did he unmask in WCW? Or what was the deal there? Because I know a lot of luchadors obviously don't unmask, and I know Rey Mysterio did at one point in WCW, and he was unmasked for the rest of his tenure there. But nevertheless, though, was there a real story behind this? I'm not really sure, because I know at one point in the matchup, the fans in attendance who were, I'll get to them at the end of the video, but they were fucking insane all night and made the show that much more memorable, because ECW fans are notable or notorious for being batshit crazy and just fucking awesome. One of the best wrestling crowds ever, if not the best wrestling crowd in history. But nevertheless, at one point during the matchup, they chanted, put your mask on or something like that, so that was a little weird. But the matchup wasn't as great as I expected it to be, but it was still a very good contest from these two. Had a lot of cool spots. The crowd came alive for the big spots when the Psychosis hit, I think, a leg drop onto Mysterio on the barricade, which was very cool. Rey Mysterio ended up doing a senton onto Psychosis in the crowd, which is also very cool. Rey Mysterio ended up picking up the victory, so nice luchador match there. Up next, we had RVD making his return, because at this point in time, he was out with an injury after being injured in January of 2005. So in June of 2005, he made an appearance at this pay-per-view ECW One Night Stand alongside his manager, Bill Alfonso. So a very good segment here, just kind of calling out, and he actually interrupted the WWE superstars of Raw and SmackDown, when the brands actually meant something. Specifically Eric Bischoff and JBL and all those guys, Kurt Angle. Freaking hilarious. I love the presence of those guys in the balcony all night. And I'll get to the Paul Heyman promo in a little bit, but the way that they were trashing the crowd and the way that the ECW guys were trashing them, and they were trashing the wrestlers, and the crowd, the fans were trashing Raw and SmackDown, and all that kind of stuff was fucking great. It was fucking hilarious. Loved every minute of it. But RVD cuts a shoot promo on these guys, saying how he wasn't utilized correctly in the WWE, and of course, a year later, he would have won the WWE title at this very same event. And I'll get to that in my next video, my One Night Stand 2006 review next Tuesday. But even so, though, I thought that was a very cool promo to have RVD make an appearance. He said it was more important than anything else, more important than going to Booker T's wedding, going to WrestleMania, competing on the grand stage of WrestleMania. This was the most important thing ever for him. So that being said, though, so he was cutting his promo in the midst of it. He got interrupted by Rhino, who attacked him, was later saved by Sabu. It led to an impromptu matchup between those two. Fun little matchup between these guys, between Rhino and Sabu. Was actually pretty brief, a lot shorter than I thought it would be, but it was a good matchup. Sabu and Rhino went all out, had some cool little spots. Rhino was not a fan favorite here, but Sabu obviously was. So a cool moment for Sabu to go over, and a good victory for him. Up next, we had Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Benoit. Now, this matchup, out of every matchup on the show, is the most intriguing to me. I love the fact when, I think it was Benoit or Eddie making his entrance, but the Mick Foley played up the story that they were both champions at the very same time at WrestleMania 20 when they shared that moment, of course, if you can recall. I talked about this in my WrestleMania 20 review, when both were world champions, when they hugged it out in the main event of WrestleMania 20 after Chris Benoit won the World Heavyweight Championship. So Mick Foley told that story on commentary. They were also talking about, I don't think they even mentioned this, but I think at this point, because I know for a majority of 2005, Eddie Guerrero was feuding with Rey Mysterio, and I think he had already turned heel by this point in time, and he looked like a heel when he was coming down for his entrance. He acted like a heel, and they never really mentioned that at all. But they also mentioned that they had matches for on Raw, they had matches on SmackDown, but never, ever had they ever had a matchup for ECW. Both these guys are ECW originals. Right up there, I think with Dean Malenko as well, and a number of others, Chris Jericho. You know, the wrestling-based guys that ECW was known for before they got snatched up by WCW. So it was awesome to have these two go on have a very nice, long, technical masterpiece of a matchup on this show. Very good matchup. Would definitely suggest going out of your way to watch this contest. Very sad to see, for one thing, of course, watching it 9 years later and seeing that both guys have since passed away. Very heartbreaking, but nevertheless, a great matchup between two best friends, Chris Benoit going over. So a great matchup from those guys. The final few minutes were also very exciting. So great match from Eddie and Benoit. Up next, we had Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka. I apologize for that. In a hardcore style matchup. Every matchup in the show is hardcore. But this matchup, Mike Awesome, I know, had passed away in, I think, 2007 after, I think, by way of suicide. Very tragic, very heartbreaking. So RIP to Mike Awesome. But I do remember at one point in this matchup, I think Mike Awesome went for a suicide dive, and Joey Styles on commentary was talking about. I remember this incident because, like I said, I read the Rise and Fall of ECW incident. Joey Styles was talking about how Mike Awesome had sold out to WCW when he was still champion. I think he bounced a paycheck or something like that. I think he took his paycheck, took the championship, and went to WCW when he was still champion, or something shady like that. So Joey Styles was going off on him the entire matchup. But even still, though, in the first few minutes of the contest, Mike Awesome hit a suicide dive on a Tanaka on the outside, and I think Joey Styles said, I wish that would have killed him. It's a shame that he didn't kill himself doing that, or something weird along those lines. But what's real crazy about this was, of course, as I mentioned before, Mike Awesome ended up taking his own life 2 years later. So with that in mind, I thought that was a very harsh line, even, kayfabe or not. And I did some searching after that. I mean, I paused the video because I knew it sounded familiar. I'd read something about this in the past. So I did some research. I paused the video, did some research on Google. I don't think Joey Styles ever apologized or ever addressed the situation after Mike Awesome passed in 2007. WWE addressed the death of Mike Awesome on Raw. They aired a graphic for him and put an article up on their website about it. But I don't know if Joey Styles ever said he regrets saying that at the event. I don't know if he's ever addressed that in the last 10 years. Maybe he has. Hopefully someone in the comment section can enlighten me on that, but I'm not really sure. But nevertheless, overall, and a fucking awesome matchup. Like, I know who Mike Awesome was and never heard of Masato Tanaka before, but these two put on a hell of a matchup. I mean, the crowd was booing Mike Awesome, who was the heel here, because he did sell out of ECW. He did sell out at one point as the champion, nevertheless. So, of course, he was the obvious heel here, but he won over the fans by the end of this contest. These guys were going all out. I think Masato Tanaka did a tornado DDT or an impaler DDT. I forget what the name of it exactly is. But off the top rope, I think it was tornado DDT off the top rope onto a pile of chairs in the ring. He did it again, this time through a table by reversing the Mike Awesome bomb right through a table in the middle of the ring. And then again, Mike Awesome gets up after kicking out of that and does the Awesome bomb through the remnants of the table that Tanaka just put him through. Fucking awesome spot. The crowd goes crazy when Tanaka kicks out of that. So that was a fucking awesome spot. They go out to the crowd. They beat the living hell out of each other, going into the crowd, telling people to move out of the way. Because Mike Awesome, he sets up a table at ringside, okay? So he picks him up like Razor Ramon finisher, like picks him up, the high cross of what Sheamus, I think, called the Razor's Edge. Maybe Mike Awesome had a name for it. I know he called it the Awesome Bomb, but he didn't set up. I don't think he set it up as the Awesome Bomb. But even so, he does that to Tanaka at ringside, right through the table. And then the camera angle is looking at Tanaka on the ground. And then out of nowhere, you see fucking Mike Awesome come out and do a suicide dive. It's crazy. You just see Tanaka on the ground, and then Mike Awesome just comes out of nowhere, dives right on top of Tanaka, picks up the victory by pinning him on the floor. Awesome matchup. Could say standing ovation from the crowd in attendance. If there was any one matchup on this show I would go out of your way to see, definitely this matchup for a nice garbage matchup, and I mean that in the best way possible in terms of hardcore style, not garbage in terms of it was bad. It was anything but. Great, awesome contest. Go out of your way to see it. Awesome contest. It definitely made me take notice of both Tanaka and Mike Awesome after this. After this, we had the promo from ECW founder I almost said Mike Awesome, Paul Heyman, the genius, the mastermind behind Extreme Championship Wrestling, coming out in this. I mean, I know I just said Tanaka versus Awesome was the match of the night, but this was the highlight of the night for me personally. I've seen this on YouTube plenty of times before. I was aware of it. I go back and watch it all the time. One of the best pipe bombs, shoot promos, whatever you want to call it. One of the best lines from Paul Heyman I've ever heard. It cracked me up every single time. It cracks me up every single time I hear it. It's great. When he comes out, he thanks the fans. He's tearing up, and he says, "I'm not crying. I was just in the back smoking a joint with RVD." That was great. He just thanks the fans for putting this together. Thanks everyone from the TV crew, from the people who believed in him from day one. Thanks the crazy bastards of fans for coming out and supporting the show. All that great kind of stuff. So I really love that part of this promo. But the best part was yet to come. When all the Raw and SmackDown superstars up in the balcony still shitting on the ECW show, on the wrestlers, the fans, the show itself, all that kind of stuff, Paul Heyman directs his attention to Eric Bischoff up in the stands, just calling him out. Eric Bischoff turns around, flips him off, and that was hilarious. That was great. And he goes, Paul Heyman is like, "Hide your wives, it's Edge." And that was crazy. "I got 2 words for you, Edge. Matt frickin' Hardy." And the crowd goes crazy. "We want Matt. We want Matt. We want Matt." And that was right after Matt Hardy had been fired from the WWE for the whole Lita, Edge, Matt Hardy triangle that went down in real life. But that was hilarious. Edge, he's looking over, he spits out his beer, looks at the other wrestlers up at the top of the balcony. "That's 3 words. That's 3 words." It was great. But that wasn't the end of it, though. The best part was yet to come. The best was Paul Heyman called out JBL. "You want to shoot, cowboy? I'll shoot with you. The only reason why you were WWE champion for a year was because Triple H didn't work Tuesdays." The best line I've ever heard in my life. Cracked up at the millionth time I've heard it. I've heard it so many times, but it never gets old. Every single time I go back and watch it. Great line. JBL. He's like, "You want to talk about bounce checks? You want to talk about ECW going out of business?" And the entire time you see JBL writing a check and bouncing it up, writing a check, bouncing it up. It was so fucking funny. Best part of the show, in my opinion. Go back and watch this promo. One of the best shoot promos in history of wrestling. Great stuff. So that, this is so fucking funny because I remember what he said to Eric Bischoff too. It just came to mind. He's like, "This is not Monday Night Raw. This ain't WCW. This is ECW. This is our house, bitch." That was great. So fucking funny. Love that part. So anyway, there's that. Then up next we had the main event of the show. We had the Dudley Boys versus Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman. The Sandman can't wrestle for shit. I'm pretty sure everyone already knows that. But the entrance is really something to behold. I do want to note this, though. I'm not really sure why this was, but I was curious. Tommy Dreamer, of course, had his WWE theme song. Dun, 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 dun. You know, that theme. And then Sandman had Enter Sandman, of course, by Metallica. Great song, by the way. But so Sandman had that as his theme song in ECW. But on this show, he came out to an altered version of it. It wasn't really the same song. Maybe that was the song in ECW that he came out to that I'm not aware of. I don't really know. Tommy Dreamer also came out to an altered version of his theme song too. So I don't know if WWE edited it for the network, because I know a lot of songs were taken out. I know on one show for WCW, someone said that Jericho came out to his WWE theme, which is really weird, but because they don't have the rights to some of the WCW themes. But even so, I thought that was a bit strange. But the match itself was just kind of a train wreck of a contest, and in the best way possible, I say that. We had appearances from Kid Cash, from the BWO, which is a very fun appearance, a parody of the NWO, of course. So they come down, Balula McGillicuddy, Francine comes down, they go at it a couple of times. A very bloody contest. They bring out the cheese grater, the Singapore canes, the tables, the chairs, everything. Great contest, real bloody, a real brutal battle. Loved it. So the Dudleys go over after knocking out Tommy Dreamer, and they pick up the victory there. Afterwards, out comes Stone Cold Steve Austin, because of course he was in ECW after he was fired from WCW. He comes down to see him and the Sandman. Two very similar gimmicks, of course, and Stone Cold has gone on the record and said in the past that he, a lot of his characteristics of his persona were inspired by the Sandman in ECW. So that was very cool to see them in the ring together, sharing a beer. So Stone Cold calls out all the stars of the ECW show. They just come out and they all celebrate and whatever. They challenge these SmackDown superstars and Raw superstars to a fight in the middle of the ring. So they come down, or I mean, if they don't go down, Stone Cold will challenge them. He challenges them to come down, or he's going to come up there in 10 seconds and slap the living piss out of their faces. So they end up coming down. They live up to the challenge. Go down to the ring. Out comes Taz, who goes at it with Kurt Angle, applies a sleeper hold on him, the Taz mission. So great visual there. But the ECW guys are going against the Raw and SmackDown guys who have unified for this one night against ECW. The ECW guys get the better of the exchange, and they then are looking for Eric Bischoff, who is now up at the commentary table, hiding from the action with Mick Foley and Joey Styles. Stone Cold catches this, tells Mick Foley to bring Eric Bischoff to him. Foley does just that, and Eric Bischoff is brought into the ring, is on the receiving end of a 3D of a diving headbutt from Chris Benoit, a 619 from Rey Mysterio, and of course the stunner from Stone Cold Steve Austin. So a great way to close out the show. They just start celebrating and go out. Paul Heyman comes out. I don't even think Paul Heyman came out at the end of the show, but all the stars of the ECW roster just celebrating and just a great visual to go off the show with. And just a great event overall. Like I said, WWE.com voted it one of the greatest pay-per-views in WWE history. Very hard to argue with there. I mean, even as a fan who has never seen ECW before, has never been exposed to the show or the pay-per-views, and I will go back and watch some ECW pay-per-views when I get the chance in the next couple of months when I'm home from summer break and whatnot. But as someone who didn't even grow up in ECW, I thought this was an awesome event. Every single match, for the most part, was very, very good. They stayed classy. They had a lot of classy tributes. The promos were fucking fantastic. The shoot promos, the exchanges between WWE and ECW, the flashback videos taking a look back at the greatest moments in ECW history. Paul Heyman's promo was great. Having Joey Styles and Mick Foley on commentary was also a very nice touch. And also building to the moment when the WWE stars came down and got their asses handed to them at the hands of the ECW guys. That was also a very nice moment to build to. So, overall, I thought it was a very entertaining show. The fans made this show what it was by being so fucking insane all night long, saying, shut the fuck up to JBL, fuck Eric Bischoff, or fuck Bischoff, or whatever else. This match rules for the Tanaka and Awesome matchup. This is awesome for every single matchup. But totally, I love this show. Everything about it was pretty fucking awesome. It's only 2.5 hours, too. It's not your standard 3-hour WWE pay-per-view. It's shorter than most, so it goes by really, really quickly to watch. Would highly suggest checking it out when you get the chance if you haven't already. And even if you did, go back and watch it again because it was so freaking awesome. So I will be back next week with my review of WWE's One Night Stand, ECW One Night Stand, I should say, 2006 pay-per-view. That will be in next week's WrestleRant video, so make sure to come back next Tuesday to check that out. But until then, you guys can like me on Facebook, check me out on Twitter with the not the hashtag AskGSM, that's for my other video series. But if you do want to suggest a pay-per-view that you want me to watch on the WWE Network, whether it be WCW, WWE, ECW, whatever it is, like I said, for the rest of the month, I'm talking about One Night Stand, but for the remainder of the summer and in coming months, you can suggest a pay-per-view to me for review on Twitter at WrestleRant, on Facebook, Jason Matthews, or in the comments below. Always appreciate the support. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All support is greatly appreciated. Until next time, guys, I will catch you guys down the road.